As a kid, I was raised in a dysfunctional household. The dysfunction came from the choices of a young lady who did the best she could with what she was given. She had children early on, and I was the last of her 3 children. When I came into this world, I came in through dysfunction. The dysfunction is what built me and created me. The dysfunction is what kept me. The dysfunction is what made me who I am today. If I didn't have the desire to be better than the dysfunction, I would be dysfunctional. Well, as time grew by and I became a young lady, I entered into my teenage phases. Yes, teenage. Early on, I've always had this heart-beating palpitation of wanting love, yearning for love, looking for love, searching for love. I've always had this desire of being a mother. I've always had this desire, what if, when I, how come? All of these things just always crossed my path of curiosity. I was very curious at a very young age. When I discovered life as a teenager, it hit me so fast. It hit me because I didn't realize why I was seeking all these things. All I know is that I wanted the comfort of a man. Did I get the comfort from a man? Or did I get the lust of a boy? I didn't have those questions in my head at the time. At the time, I was just seeking something that was going to fulfill the void because I was raised by a single mother. A man who created me but wasn't strong enough to raise me. A man who loved me but a man who couldn't keep his promises. A man who said he would show up but my bags were always still packed. This man was my father. My father was a pimp. My father belonged to many women, not just my mom. So with my father being a pimp and belonging to many women and me yearning for a man, where do you think this story is going? Looking for love in all the wrong places. How could that be? Even though my mother was a solid woman, strong, she had her weaknesses. And the things that I saw that was weak for her, I always said, that will not happen to me. That will not be me. I won't deal with those things. Truth be told, it's called a generational curse. It wasn't just my mom's issue of what she was yearning for from a man. It was also my grandmother's issue and probably my grandmother's grandmother's issue. See, this is something that carried on for generations to generations to generations. And now it's my time to tell my story. Because my story is only going to relieve some more of the hidden pain that may still be inside of me. Or it's going to help you to admit to your truth, to come forth, to have a discussion in your household of things that you've never even thought of discussing. Or maybe it's going to help you to see what your child is going through, your teenager, the one who thinks she's in love right now, or your young adult, the one that wants to wrap her arms around a man and trust every word that he's saying because she feels like she's not getting no love in the house, so she wants to seek the love from somewhere else. Well, when in doubt, ask. If the Spirit is questioning inside of you, go forth and present your questions to the person. Me, I had to deal with the hard way. I had to deal with it on my own, with myself. I had to hold on to myself. I had to hear the Holy Spirit talk to me when I didn't even know it was the Holy Spirit. I had to say it was my conscience teaching me when I didn't even know what my conscience was trying to teach me. But let's get back to this teenager. Looking for love in all the wrong places. Growing up in the suburbs, moving down to the ghetto, realizing that the ghetto made me feel more comforted than it did in the suburbs. So it was like I found my identity. Was that my identity? Or was I living behind a false pretense? Was the false pretense in the suburbs, or was it here in the ghetto? I would never know. But what I do know is when we moved to the ghetto, my life changed. It changed. Did it change for the better, or did it change for the worse? All I know is this light-skinned girl, bow-legged, very muscular, light eyes, very curly hair, was disliked but loved. So the reason that I walked around holding this guard up was because I didn't know who I could trust. So at an early age, I used to always say, they love me, but they hate me. And I didn't understand. Why they hate me if they love me? It was weird. So I was looking for love in all the wrong places. I began to seek outward. I began to look where a man, or should I say a boy, was. Anything that he said, he had my attention. Anything he wanted me to do, I was his rock. I put myself in positions that I had no business being in. My first boyfriend, he was a dope dealer. I'll be on the block with him while he's selling the dope. I'll be at the house with him counting the dough. I would tell him which car to go to and which car to stay away from. I've witnessed so much on these streets at an early age. See, back then we had pagers. My mom would page me. I'll ignore the page. Remember, I'm the youngest. So whenever it got down to me, the punishment wasn't as deep as it was with the first two. The hand was more stronger with them, but it was real lax with me. I had this way of making moves and saying things to her that I would get out of the way and do what I wanted to do. Remember, I was curious. I hung in them streets. I stayed on the RTD late at night. I went from my city to a whole nother city to kick it. I didn't really kick it in my city, in my neighborhood. Why? Because at a certain age, I began to realize my neighborhood didn't like me as much as I liked my neighborhood. See, the girls wasn't fond of a pretty girl like me. A girl like me with light eyes, curly hair, they didn't like that. So when I tried to conform to be like them, it still wasn't good enough. So what did I do? I permed my curls and made them straight. I stopped wearing jabots and Guess and started wearing cross colors and shopping at the swap meet instead of Saks Fifth Avenue. I stopped doing all the things that I knew was good for me to do to conform to these other kids around me so they could accept me. And no matter what, I still was never accepted. So what did I do? I looked for love in all the wrong places. I could be walking down the street and the girls would want to attack me. So not knowing that I had this built up rage and anger inside of me, I had to do what I had to do. I had to fight my way through these streets. And as I fought my way through these streets, it reminded me of a story that I once heard when I was younger. Your mom was a fighter. Your mom used to whoop people's butts. Your mom used to get down like that. And then I began to realize, am I a protege of my mom? Am I reliving what my mom lived? What is it about me that these attacks continue to find me? When I would look around, there was nobody there that said they loved me and had my back fighting with me. Many of you know who you are. We've touched each other. But we just didn't understand because we were so young, caught up in the epidemic of anger and drugs. So nobody really paid us any attention. We were just wilding out. So what was I doing? Looking for love in all the wrong places. I found my way down to Venice. Got with a boy down there. Fell in love with him. He said all the right things. He touched me in all the right places. I trusted him. To this day, we are best friends. Nobody could take that from us. But at the end of the day, I was too young, doing what I thought I understood and thought what I could do. But I didn't realize I was setting myself up for failure, for disappointment. See, moms, you got to get your head up out of your own ass and start paying attention to the cries of your children. See, what I'm trying to set up and show you guys in the part of my story in the beginning is My mom didn't pay me no attention. She was too tired, or she was too busy. Some of you moms is so focused on a job or focused on your own relationship with a man where you letting your children fall by the wayside. You're not giving them their undivided attention that they need. You're not giving them the time and the effort that they need. You're not giving them the essence of the childhood and the upbringing that they need to know. See, you think they're not listening. You think they're not listening, and you think they're not paying attention. But weren't you a kid? Weren't you curious? Weren't you hearing the whispers? Didn't you feel the vibration of the energy? Didn't you understand when your mother wasn't doing well, when your mother was feeling bad, or when she had an argument, or when the money wasn't right? Couldn't you feel that when you was a child? That's why we have to wake up and pay attention to our kids now. We letting them fall by the wayside, and we letting them raise themselves. I'm a protege of a young woman who was self-taught. But I'm going to tell you all the obstacles I had to go through to get to where I want to be, but where I already should have been. This is my story about a therapist who needs a therapist. But right now we're touching on the shit in my suitcase. Stay tuned. That was just the beginning of how it begins to start. I'll tune in later. Stick with me. I holla.